Well, it's not going to bring Stephen back, but I will have a peace of mind to know whoever did this is going to pay.
During the double murder investigation of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh in 2021, state agents saying they found new evidence on another mysterious death. Police reopening the case in June 2021, looking at how 19-year-old Stephen Smith was killed. Authorities said he was the victim of a hit and run. His family always believing something else happened.
They said he was shot in the head. And then it turned out it was a hit and run, and then he was beat up, and so the story just kept changing over and over.
Ultimately, the truth is going to come out.
For almost 8 years, family and friends of Stephen Smith have been asking what happened to him the night of July 8th, 2015. They were originally told Stephen died from a gunshot wound. Then they were told he was beaten. Then a hit and run.
At the very beginning, local law enforcement did a very poor job on this case. A very poor job on this case. Either it was a gross level of incompetence, or they were motivated by other purposes.
Sled. What is up, it's iCkEdMeL. Welcome back to the channel and thank you for stopping by. We're going to talk a little bit about Stephen Smith, and his family did this GoFundMe to have his body exhumed, and they've raised, the goal was $15,000, but it's up to $43,000. The general public wants to help out this family, and this is to exhume his body, but also do an independent autopsy. Now, I think this is great. I hope that maybe, I don't know, it can give the family, I don't know, something, like my concern is that this is from, the death was July 8th, 2015. The death circumstances are mysterious. We've talked about this a little bit during the Alex Murdaugh trial, but also if you haven't had a chance to watch this HBO Max documentary, Low Country, I know a lot of people don't have HBO Max. I had it for a time. It is great because they touch on this whole story, the mysteriousness of it, the things that just don't make sense. I didn't even hear about the whole alleged, it was supposedly a gunshot, then it was beat up, and then it was a hit and run. But the whole hit and run thing didn't even make much sense. His car was parked on the side of the road, the gas tank open, and I forgot how far he was away from the car. We'll get into more details, but he just had like this head gash, and we'll talk more about that too. It wasn't consistent with somebody that was like actually hit with a car.
I'll be honest with you, we're at a loss. Even the sheriff's department, everybody's, there's nothing. And this is one of the reasons why I don't feel like it's a hit and run. I've looked at the body itself, just does not.
And then I heard that one of the theories was that maybe somebody with a bat hanging out of the car like hit him as they were going by. I don't know. We're going to talk about that, but definitely make sure you check out my partner, Data Seal, a service that I use to protect myself. I recommend it because anybody can search you up, especially with these crazy people online. All you need is your name, your phone number. You can even pull up somebody with an email. You pull up their addresses, a whole list, because these data brokers are selling your information, a list. There's even free websites that will sell your information online. People will go there, they'll find your address, your previous addresses, your family's addresses, your relatives, all that kind of stuff. So your information is being sold by data brokers all the time. It's easy for anybody to look up your information using people search websites. They can find your home address, date of birth, email address, phone number. Dataseal.io is the data removal and monitoring service I trust to remove my information from the internet. Click the link below and use the code 5OFFALL to save 5% off your Data Seal subscription. And my concern about the exhuming the body is that like how long it's been. I don't know how much they'll be able to get from that. Sled did say that they were making progress, which, I wouldn't be holding out and waiting for Sled. I don't blame the family for looking into this. Let's look at this People article because I thought this article was great. Goes into details, talks about the Stephen Smith, all about the teen's mysterious death, 2015 death, and reopened investigation after Murdaugh murders. And I remember during one of the press conferences, I think that Sled, or the attorneys or whatever it was, that they had alluded to like, this is not over. Like there's more coming. I don't know if they were talking about Stephen Smith or were they talking about Gloria or what? And so Stephen Smith's death has been considered mysterious since he was found dead in the middle of a rural South Carolina road in 2015, and questions have only intensified since 2021. Murders of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, a mother and son from a prominent South Carolina family. Smith, a 19-year-old nursing student from Hampton, South Carolina, was found dead in the early morning hours of July 8th, 2015. He was discovered lying in the middle of a dark country road 3 miles away from where his car had run out of gas. So I guess he was walking, he had gotten quite a bit away, with deep gashes on his forehead. Several local news outlets reported. Authorities initially thought Smith had been shot, but his death was later ruled a hit and run, a claim that his mother, Sandy Smith, disputes to this day. Sandy and I both believe that this was a murder. Smith family attorney Mike Hemlip, that's the guy we just saw in the beginning. Whoever did this to Stephen should go to prison. Smith's case was initially investigated by South Carolina Highway Patrol before going cold in 2016. According to Fitz News, in that investigation, the Murdaugh name, a powerful local family known for their long-standing law firm, was mentioned dozens of times as possibly being connected to Smith's death. Fitz News reported, however, no member of the Murdaugh family was ever questioned in Smith's death, and no charges were ever filed. You got connections like that, bro. But in June 2021, nearly 6 years after Smith was found dead, South Carolina's top law enforcement agency announced that they were opening an investigation into his death. SLED revealed in a statement that the investigation was launched based upon information gathered during the course of the double murder investigation of Paul and Maggie. So to me, I mean, that really does point to the Murdaugh family, okay? They did an extensive investigation, even though, you know, they seems like they screwed up a lot in the beginning and throughout. But through the course of investigating, I mean, they went through their cell phones, all kinds of cell phone data, car data, probably, I don't know, their social medias, their Snapchat, whatever kind of stuff that they were able to pull up. Whatever they did with the Murdaugh stuff led to them reopening the investigation in Stephen Smith. That right there to me is like telling you there has to be something there, possibly with this Murdaugh family and Stephen Smith. We've been waiting on this forever, Sandy Smith said at the time. Stephen always been put on the back burner. It's like nobody's looking for answers. Stephen's had no justice. Since the investigation into Smith's death was announced, Alec, Maggie's husband and Paul's father, was found guilty of the shootings. We know all that stuff. He was sentenced to 2 life sentences. Sandy Smith hopes to find similar justice for Stephen. I just want to know what really happened to my son. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get justice for my son. Smith was found dead on July 8th, 2015. And so in the early morning hours of July 8th, 2015, Smith was found dead in the middle of a dark Hampton County road. He had a 7.25-inch gash on the right side of his forehead, as well as a partially dislocated right shoulder and cuts and bruises on his right hand. That's interesting. According to Fitz News, his car was located 3 miles away with the gas cap unscrewed and his wallet still inside. Now that's weird. If you're at a gas and let's say that they thought that he was leaving to go get some gas for his car because it was empty, unless somebody purposely unscrewed it to make it look like that. But if that was the case, why leave your wallet? According to the Hampton County Guardian, Smith was on his way home from a night class at the Orangeburg Calhoun Technical College, where he was studying nursing, when his car ran out of gas on Highway 601. Authorities believe he began walking home along Sandy Run Road, a claim his family disputes. Stephen would never have been walking in the middle of the roadway, the family told investigators, saying he was skittish. Smith's mother, Sandy, later reiterated the same point to the Hampton County Guardian. I just don't believe my son would have been walking in the middle of the road like that. Authorities initially thought Smith suffered a gunshot wound to the head. A detailed timeline of events immediately following Smith's death was done by Fitz News, revealed that authorities initially believed Smith suffered a gunshot wound to the head. South Carolina Highway Patrol officers stated that there was a possible gunshot wound to the victim's head and that the death appeared to be a homicide. Smith's case file stated that at the scene of the incident, Hampton County Coroner Ernie Washington referred to Smith's head wound as a gunshot wound, which I guess initially maybe just seeing the gash, maybe that's what he thought, I guess. I mean, out there they use the armpit method as a method to determine the time of death, pointed to the bullet's entry point, and referred to the death as a homicide. The deputy coroner present, Kelly Green, also verbally affirmed that it was a homicide to the SCHP officers present. However, a search of the cartridge cases of the morning of Smith's death turned up empty, so no cartridge cases. According to the case file, SHCP officers returned to the scene the following day, July 9th, to hunt for any evidence within 100 yards of Smith's body, where Smith's body was found, but there was nothing. Smith's autopsy also found no bullet or fragments. I feel like I'm getting a flashback as I'm reading this, and I don't know if it was from like Low Country. Maybe somebody in the comment section could comment, or I can try to look it up after I'm done recording. But I thought they had said that like Murdaughs, it wasn't Alec Murdaugh. I don't know if it was the grandfather. I thought somebody had showed up over there to the scene. Or am I thinking of the boat crash? No, I'm thinking of this incident. I thought somebody had showed up the day of or the next day offering like to help or their services or something. Smith's death was ruled a hit and run. Despite the initial belief that Smith's head injury was a result of a gunshot wound, his death was ruled a hit and run by Dr. Erin Presnell at the Medical University of South Carolina. According to Fitz News, the autopsy, which was conducted at 12:30 p.m. on July 8th, found that Smith had died from blunt head trauma from motor vehicle crash. How does that even happen? In light of historical information and autopsy findings, it is the opinion of the pathologist that the descendant died as a result of blunt head trauma sustained in a motor vehicle crash in which the descendant was a pedestrian struck by a vehicle. So what are they saying? He was bending over. He was just facing. How does that happen? A vehicle hit him head first and just caused him that 7-inch gash or whatever. How does that even work out? SCHP officers were apparently skeptical of the hit and run ruling from the beginning. According to Smith's case file, Dr. Presnell reportedly told the SCHP officer that no glass fragments. This is the whole suspicious thing too. They talked about this in Low Country. No glass fragments or any other evidence from a motor vehicle were found on Smith. A search of the scene at Sandy Run Road also found no debris, no tire marks consistent with a motor vehicle crash. The case file read, Smith was found with his loosely tied shoes still on his feet and his clothes still appeared untouched, which is like they were saying in the documentary and people were talking about this. This is like inconsistent with like a hit and like you being hit by a vehicle, your shoes still intact. You just have this like head gash, no like road rash on your legs or whatever. It's weird. The coroner told the state police investigator he disagreed with the autopsy findings. In August 2015, Coroner Ernie Washington, who was present on the scene when Smith's body was found, told lead investigator Todd Proctor that he did not agree with the autopsy findings. According to Fitz News, Proctor's case notes from the conversation detailed that Washington said he does not agree with the pathologist that the victim was struck by a motor vehicle. Proctor, who no longer works for the SCHP, later echoed similar doubts about the hit and run, according to Fox News in June 2021. Nothing about this case from the very beginning pointed towards it being a hit and run. He continued, as investigators, you go off the evidence. There was no evidence that pointed towards this being a hit and run or a vehicle even being involved in it at all. It looked like it was more staged, like possibly the body had been placed in the middle of the roadway. Now, I mean, before, I just got to take it back a little bit, just some of the things that stuck out to me. And it's just like, so the armpit coroners or the armpit, who found homeboy? Who's the one that said it was a headshot wound? South Carolina Highway Patrol officer stated that there was a possible gunshot wound to the head. So a 7-inch, 7-inch, that's like my 7-inch gap. Is that what they said? 7.25 inch. 7.2. Yo, we got the committee here. Yo, the committee down here, tell me. A 7-inch, this shit like this, bro. Oh yeah, it's a headshot. And then the weird thing. Okay, so shoulder, right shoulder partially dislocated, which maybe they could say that was from being hit, I guess. It almost looks like there was a fight. And then he specifically has cuts and bruises on his right hand. That's sus, bro. And then the whole thing where his clothes appeared untouched. Bruh, you get hit by a car with this in your car, your clothes appears untouched. All right, so let's continue to where we left off. The Murdaugh name was mentioned more than 40 times in the investigation of Smith's death, though no Murdaugh family member was questioned. They weren't even questioned. When you got power like that, and when you're dealing with SLED, it's not it seems like now they're trying to like save face. The Murdaugh family was mentioned in relation to Smith's death in July 17, 2015, Fitz News reported. In their detailed timeline of the days following the discovery of his body, a member of the Smith family told SCHP that Randy Murdaugh, Alex Murdaugh's brother, had contacted Smith's father on the day of his death, and they talked about this in the documentary as well, and said he would take Smith's case for free. Oh, we're going to take care of you. We're the Murdaugh family. No. We're going to do this shit for free because we just care. Because we're just loving and committed like that. Investigate his ass. Pull Randy in too. Oh, we're just going to take care of it. Don't worry. One hand washes the other. In the same interview, the Smith family member told the SCHP that the first time she went to the store following Smith's death, people approached her and alleged that Buster Murdaugh, Alex's oldest son and classmate of Smith, was responsible. So there's a lot of rumors and talk in the town. You'll see that in the documentary. I haven't seen anything tangible, but that was the talk of the town. I don't know what there is. There must be some stuff. I don't know what. Fitz News reported that neither the offer from Randy nor the tip about Buster were included in the written case notes. Okay? I don't wonder why. From that point on, the Murdaugh family name was brought up more than 40 times throughout the course of the investigation, Fitz News stated. Additionally, more than half of the people interviewed during the investigation mentioned hearing about rumors of Buster Murdaugh's possible involvement in Smith's death. However, Buster was never brought in for questioning. What kind of investigation, SLED, and whoever else out there, the armpit people, what kind of investigation does the Murdaugh family get mentioned 40 times and are like, nah, we're not even going to talk to them. We're not even going to ask any kind of questions. Does that sound normal to you? There were several theories about Smith's death during the course of the investigation. The police encountered several theories about how the 19-year-old nursing student died. The notes from the case files, as reported by Fitz News, shed light on many rumors that were floating around the area in the weeks following Smith's death. In one instance, a friend of a relative of Smith's told police she received a text asking were Buster Murdaugh and Stephen together. Were Buster Murdaugh and Stephen together? The friend told police she said no, and that the person who sent the text told police that he had simply heard the rumor. Another individual told police that certain young men were riding down the highway, 601, the night Smith died, saw him broken down and turned around. The young men then stuck something out of the window. The individual stated that ended up hitting Smith and killing him. That's one of the rumors they talked about, I think, in Low Country as well. The individual stated that ended up hitting Smith and killing him. The individual also told police in a face-to-face meeting that one of the men in the car was reportedly Buster, but that all the information he provided was only hearsay. Despite the rumors, police never named anyone as a suspect in the death of Smith. Additionally, the accusations made in those interviews were never proven, and authorities have never called Smith's death a murder. Sandy Smith asked the FBI for help in her son's case and accused authorities of a cover-up. In September 2016, more than a year after Smith was discovered dead, his mother Sandy wrote a letter to the FBI asking for help with the case. According to Fitz News, "My family is in desperate need of your help," Sandy reportedly wrote in the letter. "My 19-year-old son, Stephen Nicholas Smith, was murdered July 8, 2015 in Hampton County, South Carolina. It has been apparent from the first week of this investigation that authorities are covering up critical evidence and we no longer know who to trust." Sandy went on to describe several issues she had with the investigation into her son's death, including the changing theories on how he died, discrepancies in the 911 log, and authorities' failure to gain access to Smith's phone. She also disputed the autopsy claim that her son was hit by a car. The investigation is being deliberately derailed, she concluded. We need someone to hold the investigators accountable and access Stephen's phone. The FBI wasn't the only group Sandra reached out to in regard to Smith's case. She told Carolina News and reporter that she also wrote letters to South Carolina's governor and crime television personality Nancy Grace, asking them to look into her son's death. The investigation into Smith's death was reopened in June 2021. On June 22nd, 2021, SLED reopened an investigation into Smith's death based upon information gathered during the course of the double murder investigation of Paul and Maggie. However, the spokesperson did not specify what information led to the reopening of the investigation. In a statement on tape by People, Sandy said that she was grateful for SLED and the Attorney General's office providing some closure into the deaths of Paul and Maggie, and she had hoped for similar results in Smith's death. While many questions about my son's death remain, this action gives me hope that we will get justice for Stephen. A lawyer for the Smith family, Mike, told People, I know there are some people who know what happened to Stephen. The old way of doing business in Hampton does not exist anymore. There's a bright light being shined that our county and anyone who knows anything needs to come forward. Hemlep also stated that SLED investigators had been engaging in regular communication with Sandy. I know that they're working hard and that this is not a cold case. Now, Smith's death isn't the only case that investigators have looked into since the Murdaugh murders. In June 2022, investigators announced that they would be exhuming Gloria Satterfield, and we've talked about that a little bit too. The Murdaugh family housekeeper who died of a supposed slip and fall at their family home in 2018. So we've talked about that, and also the whole boat incident. An organization called Standing for Stephen was founded in Smith's memory. Suzanne Andrews, an accountant for Columbia, South Carolina, founded the group Standing for Stephen in October 2021 with the initial goal of helping Smith's family raise money for a headstone. So this was a really nice gesture. She goes on to say, my son will be 18 in November, and I just couldn't imagine in 6 years that no one had come to Stephen's mom's aid for memorializing her son. Andrews told People that no family, no community, no friends, no one had come to help her try and get a headstone. This is about a child that deserves to be memorialized and commemorated, and a mother to have support that she hadn't had. The group raised more than $40,000 for Smith's headstone, which was placed on his gravesite at a vigil in July 2022, and for a scholarship for Smith's name. That's really nice. Andrews also started a Change.org petition for South Carolina to sign a hate crime bill into law. Smith was gay, although there was no evidence to indicate that his death was a hate crime. But beyond the financial impact, Andrews shared that the outpouring of support from around the world was especially meaningful to Smith's mother, Sandy. So this was really nice that they did that. And we've already kind of talked about this with Smith's family believes justice was served with Alex Murdaugh being found guilty, and they hope that justice for Stephen happens. You guys comment down below. Tell me your thoughts. Hit and run, accident. Do you believe one of the Murdaughs is involved, or is it just somebody in the town that drove by and hit him with a bat? Which that maybe seems a little bit more plausible, but you also have to wonder Randy offering his services, kind of like Murdaugh was offering his services for the whole boat thing, right? Oh, we'll take care of you. Almost like Gloria Satterfield, the babysitter, and he offered one of his attorney friends that was on the inside. Oh yeah, no, don't worry, we'll take care of it for free for you. Kind of like that. Kind of like they were trying to do this Stephen Smith. So super weird. Accident. Do you think the Murdaughs are involved? Is this another very highly circumstantial case that would be really hard, and they're trying to play careful how they move? What do you think can come from exhuming the body this far after? I don't know. Can they get some clues, more confirmation? Maybe, and especially people independently looking at this. And I also don't advocate for stalking and hunting down Buster and whatever. And if that's what's going on, it was reported that what's going on, just standing out there for hours. I don't advocate for that. So please hit the like button, subscribe, turn on bell notifications. Thank you guys so much for the support. I love you. Check out Data Seal. Click the link, free scan, give it a try, and take care. Peace.
Maybe if we just stand out here for hours and hours and hours, we'll get our answer from Buster. Buster? Buster, is that you? Hi. Will you answer our questions? We're gonna stalk you for days and days and days and days and hours and hours and hours just for a glimpse of you stepping out to walk your dog, to do some groceries. Buster, is that you? We're the media, and we're gonna be out here waiting for you, Buster.